Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Toolbox Talk Men's Shared webinar, where over the last few weeks we've been having some COVID-friendly conversations with people that might just be of interest due to their hobbies, habits, projects, professions, or pastimes, or all of the above. We hope you've all managed to log on okay, and you're going to be listening to some stimulating conversation, we hope. Remember, if you click on the chat button just down the bottom there, you can submit some questions, if you like, to our special guests that we might be able to address in a Q&A towards the end. So, yeah, grab yourself a cup of coffee if you haven't, and chime in. Awesome. Okay, our guest today is someone that I've personally been wanting to meet and speak to. Very eager to speak to him, because during the lockdown, I built myself a bit of a veggie garden. So I really got into that, and I've been thriving in that veggie garden, but having no idea what I was doing, I did what every red-blooded human seems to do nowadays, and I went straight to Google and YouTube to see what I could find. And I think I typed in something like how to grow veggies at home or something, and this thumbnail came up of this bloke. It was like big thumbs up, and I think the title was "How to Grow a Ton of Veggies." And so I clicked, I thought this will be a laugh. So I clicked on it, and there's this really big bearded bloke, charismatic. And I like it. He's like the Steve Irwin of gardening. And, but he had this really down to earth way of explaining things. And I just sort of got a little bit addicted to some of the videos. He's just so knowledgeable. So yeah. So Mark Valencia is his name, and he retired from the Australian Army in 2008. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, after about 21 years of service and in the Army, to become a stay-at-home dad. He's always had a passion for gardening and self-sufficiency. And over the past 10 years, he's turned his passion into a YouTube channel, a blog, and a website that he shares with the world. And I'm not exaggerating, he's over 1.4 million subscribers to his YouTube channel. That's huge. What this guy doesn't know about gardening and self-sufficiency isn't worth knowing, but one of the things I love about him, he's very passionate. He's a very passionate advocate about the benefits of gardening and the benefits to health that gardening can be. So I'd like to talk to him about that, amongst other things, today. So I'd like to welcome Mark Valencia. How are you, mate?
How you going?
How'd I go with the intro? Is that pretty spot on?
Yeah, I reckon pretty spot on, except for knowing everything about self-sufficiency. I am still learning, and I'm learning every day. I learn from YouTube, chats like this. I learn from the comment section underneath my videos. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm a bit iffy on, being the know-it-all of self-sufficiency. Certainly not, but I do know quite a bit.
I reckon you do. Well, you streaks out of me, don't worry. That's not hard to do. But mate, that was one of my questions, is how did you become so knowledgeable? Is it all self-taught? Like, how do you know so much about this?
Well, mostly when I left the military, I mean, look, the military gives you quite a few skills as it is. I did a number of survival courses, and you have to be a bit of a jack of all trades. And I've had an interest in it my whole life. I watched my grandfather in his shed in the backyard, turning wood, and then going to his veggie patch, and I'd follow him around like a little doggy, you know, and sucking in all that information. Yeah. And so I did learn a lot just through looking and watching and listening. And in these later years, it was YouTube and the internet, Googling, reading, and finding solutions to problems and how to do this, how to do that. And of course, I just love experimenting. I like learning things on my own as well. They say you should always learn from other people's mistakes. That's a smart man. But I'm a bit dumber. I like to learn from my own mistakes, and often I will just try something and see how it goes. And sometimes I surprise myself and have a win, and it's really nice. Yeah.
But you even share the fails too, don't you, on your videos? That's what's great. Well, some of the crazy stuff you do.
I think it's important to for authenticity as well as inquisitive and experimental type of things. Like I'm no scientist. My brother is. He's got a double degree. He works with CSIRO, and he's a professor, and he knows everything about science. And he'll tell me, Mark, your experiment isn't exactly right. It's entertaining, but you should have had 10 plants, not just 1 or 2, and you should have done that. And I say, yeah, I get it, but I just don't. I just want to go ad lib and have fun, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds. And I also do like sharing the whole thing so that people understand where I'm coming from. I'm not hiding anything, and I find that is part of the entertainment.
Yeah, it's brilliant because it shows that failure, it's trial and error. That like anything, it's trial and error. You're going to have fails. And I've had plenty of fails already in my little garden. I've pulled out the broccoli, too late, planted things too late or too early, too much water. It's so much to learn. Like I'm thinking, am I going to ever get this right? But it's just that continual learning. But you've done some crazy stuff. I've seen you try everything. That's the beauty of it too. I saw you. I think you buried one of your ducks or something. One of your ducks got killed, and so you buried it. And the dedication to that too, because I think you buried it, you filmed it, and then you came back 6 months later or something and dug it up to see how it decomposed and thing.
That's right. That duck got strangled by a python, and obviously the python was too small to eat the blooming thing, so he couldn't even get a feed. But often they'll if they get into a cage or whatever, they'll strangle a chicken or a duck. And but then I found that if you bury them in the garden, even if just a standard garden bed, they disappear pretty quickly. Things just feast off it, including the plants that grow really well in that spot. So nothing's a waste. The more I got into burying things in the garden, like kitchen scraps, and I even buried a kangaroo underneath a banana tree that I haven't dug up yet. I'm not sure if I will. But that's a different story. That's a long story. The missus hit a roo, unfortunately. She called me on her way to work. She hit a roo and she goes, "Oh my God, Mark, I've just hit a roo." And I said, "Oh, okay, don't worry, I'm on my way." So I drove down the road. She wasn't too far away, and it perished just as I got there. Otherwise, I would have maybe had to put it down. And I had to think about it. I'm standing over this kangaroo and I'm thinking, oh, should I? Bugger it. I had a few plastic bags of that. I lined the back of the ute, threw the kangaroo in, made sure no one was looking, took it back home and buried it underneath a banana tree.
That's why you don't see any roadkill out on the roads around your place.
Yeah, it's pretty clean.
You're doing it's a community service you're doing.
Yeah. If someone pulled me up, I would have just said, "Oh, look, doing the right thing."
Yeah.
Secretly, I just want a big bunch of bananas.
Kangaroo flavored bananas at that. Fantastic. Yeah. Brilliant, really. So what's probably the craziest experiment you've done? And it's like something you did maybe, and it's just like, wow, that worked or something.
Oh, there's a lot.
Can you think of anything like that? Or?
Just recently, this video, it's got a bit of traction. My last video that I released, we went fishing and I got a whole heap of fish frames after the fillets. We did well. We had a really good day on the water and got some mackerel and a nice 50+ centimeter snapper. And so I filleted them instead of making fish stock, because I like to get as much out as possible. Of course, when you're hunting or you're fishing or you're in the garden, you don't want anything to go to waste in the self-sufficiency realm. You want to reuse, recycle as much as possible. And I think that's what men are good at, is rethinking and tinkering and making the best out of what they've got. But in that sense, I thought, well, I've buried fish heads underneath tomato plants in the garden, but I wonder how it'd go in a container with just one plant, and a large container, but just a contained container. Nevertheless, would it stink the whole place up? Would it kill the plant? Would it work? Would it dissolve? So I put I pretty much overdone it. I put probably 10 fish frames in the base of this pot, and then I put some potting soil in there, and I planted one tomato plant on top. And I actually added some worms. I bought some live worms, 500 of them in a little pack, and I sprinkled that on top, put some mulch on the top of that. And I really didn't know what was going to happen. I thought it could either just stink the whole place out and turn into mush or what. But anyway, long story short, you can watch the video if you want. But when the tomato plant did well, we've got lots of good tomatoes out of it. And then when I emptied the pot out, there was hardly anything left. It was just completely all gone in the matter of 19 weeks.
So all of it became nutrients for the plant.
Yeah, it became nutrients for the plant and eaten by worms. And that mix that was in that pot is a really high quality mix, even though a big tomato plant grew out of it and produced, 100 fruit. Still, the soil was full of worms and then put back into the garden. It was one of my best experiments, I think.
Yeah, wow. I tell you what, though, if I'm not feeling well, I'm not coming around your place. I'll end up at the bottom of the garden.
Yeah, actually, it did have a bit of a wafty smell for the first week. About the first 7 or 8 days, you walk past and you go, there's fish in that pot. But it went away. Yeah.
Classic. So mate, how did it all come about? Like the YouTube channel and things like that. How did that all come about? Was that your intention from the start, or what happened?
No, I retired in 2008. Life was I've told this story a long time, so I won't elaborate too much. But 2008, left the military. I had a good career. I just didn't want to spend the next 20 years, maybe going from WO1, because I was squadron sergeant major at the time, going then up the ranks, maybe transferring over, becoming an officer. I just didn't see that as fun anymore. I felt like I'd been there, done that. I was on several operations and I had a young family and I didn't want to drag my boys around Australia anymore. I wanted them to have a good settled life and stable sort of life on the one property, hopefully. And that's what we did. But to do that, we had to take a bit of a risk. And this is what I was going to say earlier on, actually. A lot of people are too scared to fail. And failure and it's one of the reasons why I like talking about it. Failure isn't necessarily the end of the world. You should look at failure as something we can all learn from. We all fail in things, and so many successful people around the world have failed over and over and over again before they made it. And those failures are hardly ever spoken about. People only just see the success and all that. And I think if we actually talked about failure a little bit more and how it's okay sometimes to fail in many broad things, I think people would be more satisfied with having a go and trying more and sort of getting out of their comfort zone and then giving themselves an opportunity to even be more successful or whatever, in whether it be just growing a plant or making a financial investment or whatever. But, so I'm getting a bit off track then. What was the original question?
I can't remember. I thought you could help me. No, how did it all start and things like that?
So, that was the failure thing. Yeah, so it was a worry. You're leaving a good paying government job in the military to basically go on one income. Nina, my wife, she left the military soon after as well. So she had to find a job and she concentrated on her career and I stayed at home doing all the home stuff, getting the boys off to school. Initially, we had one that wasn't at school. We had one at preschool. And so I'd have dinner on the table and I took away all that stress that couples can fight about. If you're both in the workforce, this modern day society we live in now, to manage your mortgage, to pay all the bills, you both have to work in a normal family, and it's difficult because the trade-off is you're time poor and your family suffers, and sometimes your relationship suffers. And in some families it's not a problem, but in ours we were starting to fight a bit over who could do the dishes. I worked just as hard as you, and all that. So having one person stay at home to us made sense, even though we were money poor, financially worse off, we were happier. And some of our family and friends initially said that was madness. Why are you taking such a risk? You know, you're forgoing a really good position and income, and the dangers are, you know, you can run into financial difficulties and problems. And we did. We had to rob Peter to pay Paul for a number of years. But Nina's career kept on going nicely because she didn't have to worry about too much else. We fought less. We you know, relationship blossomed basically. The kids were stable, and we were just happier overall. But the trade-off was we didn't have as much money to spend on other things. But I worked really hard for that first 3 years between 2000 and 2008, 2011 to establish the property, grow as much food as we could, because boys eat a lot. We got 2 boys, and they were just churning through the food, and that's probably one of the biggest expenses in a family. And so we just, I just grew as much as possible and planted as much as possible. And then in around about in 2011, it was actually Nina that said, "Mark, I'm getting so fed up and sick of you explaining the same thing over and over at each barbecue. You know, each get together, people are asking you, how'd you grow this? How'd you make that preserve? You know, how'd you ferment that?" And she said, "Why don't you just make a blog? And then when someone asks you, just say, oh, go and read the recipe on the blog," or something like that. I said, "That's a good idea." Okay, so I made a blog. Back in 2011, there wasn't plug-in things. So I actually had to do the research online, got on YouTube, got on the internet, and found out how to create a website, put it together, did the little bits of code here that I copied from other places, and I created a website. It kept me pretty busy. Late at night, I'd work till 2 in the morning doing all this stuff, and creating this website, and then writing, and it was good. And then I thought, well, I come from a military background. Maybe I'd be okay at video, because I was a recruit instructor. I was a weapons coach. I instructed young officers in their trade, and I was thinking, yeah, I should be able to do that. So I got a camera and I set it up, and I signed on to a YouTube channel, got an account, and I was just awful at it, absolutely terrible. In my mind, because I was used to talking to sometimes hundreds of people, and them looking at me, and me looking at them, and get eye contact and that. But then
you get that feedback
into a camera, it was just, I was like a stunned mullet. But I had all this knowledge of how to instruct and how to convey a message and all that. But then, I was, and that took me, I reckon, 100 videos, but I persisted with it because I was dogmatic. I thought this was a really good way to impart information and knowledge and have some fun, but I was stiff and I've left all those old videos up. And you can see the transformation. I mean, I'm still getting there, but I'm better than I was at the beginning. And you could see the military side fighting with trying to relax and be more civvy. And once I started to relax more and be more myself instead of the military moron instructor, I actually started getting more traction on YouTube, and more people warmed to me and started following me. So that's how it started. 2008 got out. 2011, I started sharing that information I learned over those 3 years, and then it just took off.
Was the intention to try and make a business out of it, or was that it, or was it just merely just to stop you having to speak so much at barbecues and things?
The intention was to survive really for the first couple of years, and do my bit, be the home dad, and also grow as much food as possible so that we could, help with the groceries. But then I never ever wanted to get back. I knew that there was going to be a time when the boys were old enough, and this is now, where they would be teens, they wouldn't need me as much, and I couldn't justify staying at home. I needed to get back into the workforce, work for the man. And I was always thinking, how can I not work for the man? Because I think I'd be a bit unhappy. just myself. That's me personally. I just,
Yep.
after a military career of everyone telling me what to do, I was just thinking I'd love to do something for myself. So I was thinking maybe lawn mowing, something outdoors,
Yeah.
you know, and then when I started blogging and I realized there was a few hundred people following me and reading my writings, I was thinking,
Yeah.
hang on, this could be an avenue here to start a business and to make something,
Wow.
you know, online, maybe with the knowledge that I have. Perhaps I could
Yeah.
do that. And I think that was, I earned my first $2 in around 2012 on a display ad on my website. And there's a bit of a funny story there. I went and visited, we went for a dinner up north to a friend's place, and
Yeah.
his missus was a bit of a high achiever. You know, she was she'd been a copper, she's a nurse, a couple of degrees, and
Yeah.
you know, in the army as well. And anyway, she said, Mark, I've got to ask you, you've been doing this website thing and you're saying you're going to now turn it into a business. How much money did you make last month? And I went, and I thought, oh, it's a little bit rude, but I was honest. And I said, $2. And she howled. She was laughing, tears just about coming down her eyes. And on the way home, I sort of wiggled my way out of it and just took it on the chin. Nina was saying, geez, that was really rude of her to do that. And I said, look, I don't know. If I can make $2 out of just someone reading my stuff online, I can make 2,000. And and
Wow.
that was the start of it. I was actually saw it as a real positive and never looked back. And then it just kept on growing from there, from a few thousand subscribers on my YouTube channel to now 1.4 million.
Wow. Wow. It's just grown exponentially, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I'd say to everyone listening to this that I'm no exception at all. The knowledge you have, especially after a few decades in the workforce, think about how much knowledge you've acquired. You might not have degrees, say, or or even trades or anything, but you've got a lot of knowledge. And if you've got an exciting niche or hobby or something that you're really interested in, if you can, you know, if you're interested in the digital world, which I think everyone should be, because that's just the way of the future, and it's so handy for us learning things and imparting and our information and also communication. Well, then consider maybe sharing a little bit of that knowledge online. And even if you have, say, 200 followers on a YouTube channel, think about it that that might not be too many compared to 1.4 million, but when you compare it to a room and you've got 200 people standing in that room watching you give that information out, that's a lot of people. So that's I would just let people know out there that there's nothing exceptional about me and getting that 1.4 million. The only thing is I've just had a go at it, but there's plenty of guys out there that can do the same thing if you're interested in that. And there's no harm in trying. A YouTube account is free.
So you've had no formal training, no formal qualifications in horticulture or anything like that, just what you're self-taught?
Yeah, none at all. None at all.
And the same then goes again with all the videography and things like that. That's all self-taught as well. You know?
I had to learn all my editing. I learned online through blogs and YouTube and videos and other platforms. Yeah, everything.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It doesn't have to be something that it was your career or anything like that. The thing is, like I said, I think I said it before, we're watching you learn as you go. You know, there's a journey there that everyone's watching and they're thinking, oh, it's kind of like, you know, I guess, like one of these Netflix series or something like that. We're watching this journey of someone learning as they go. And we're learning as we go and watching you make mistakes and knowing that we can do the same thing. So, no, it's fantastic. So,
no, cheers. Yeah, and I'm glad people see it that way. Like I keep saying, it's nothing remarkable, but it is remarkable that so many people enjoy that content and do follow me and are so generous with their time to do that. And I never forget that.
do you ever get any negative? I mean, I see a lot of positive comments, but do you ever get negative saying, oh, you know, true blue horticulturists or anything like that to try and say, you know, put it down or anything? They all sort of go along with it, or?
Oh, you get plenty of trolls all the
Yeah, right.
time. But if you're going to be a public in the public realm like I am, you have to accept that you're going to get criticism. A lot of the criticism is good, is very positive. You know, they'll say, they'll be polite, and you've got to take criticism. Yeah, Mark, you've done that the wrong way, or I think you could have done this better, or I think this was a bad video. I didn't like what you did there. That's all stuff I can learn from. If it's attacks, like people attack, you know, you personally, well, then that's different. And you've got to ignore that. If it's really sinister, well, then there are tools that you can use to ban people from the channel and all that. But overall, you've got to accept criticism, and because often it's legit, and it can make you better.
And I guess that's the difference between YouTube and television. You're not going on there as an expert, telling everyone this is the way you should do stuff or whatever. You're just on there doing your stuff, doing what you do and sharing it. You know, take the information or leave it. Like, you can try what I'm doing. This is what I've done. It worked. It failed. Take it or leave it. You know, that's the beauty of it. You're not advocating to anyone that you have to do this, or this is not the way to do it. This is the correct way to do it. This is just the way I did it.
Yeah, I try not to. I try not to be too preachy, or this is the way you should do it. I always try to approach it with, this is the way I've done it, and these are the results, and, you know, take it or leave it, sort of as that. Yeah, I think it's more authentic that way as well. TV can be pretty preachy. And I think that's why there's a fair move away from TV into the video digital landscape, because people like to follow more authentic type advice and channels like mine, because they can relate to it more.
Yeah, brilliant. And the other aspect of all this that I wanted to touch on too is that the mental health benefits, and the health, all physical and mental health benefits of gardening and what you do. You advocate that a lot. A lot of the things you've written in your blogs and things are advocating that. And I mean, my work with the Queensland government, you know, the mental health and well-being. There's those 6 elements that make up your mental health and well-being, being body, mind, spirit, people, place, planet. And what you're doing basically ticks all those boxes, doesn't it? I mean, you're out there getting physical. I see you sweating and digging up mulches and digging up gardens. You're continually learning, especially not just the gardening, but the videography and things. You're connecting with other people all over the world. You're sharing information with other people, and I see what you're writing back to people to give them tips and things. And the place, you know, the mindfulness of it all, the being in touch with nature and what you do with all your animals and things. Even though you kill some of them to eat them every now and again, but I mean, that's self-sufficiency, but the planet part too. I mean, you're touching on all those areas, and you're happy to advocate that. And I know myself that with my veggie garden, I go up there every afternoon, and I love to water, and just that's that time out. It's meditation, whatever you want to call it. It's a great thing, and it's that learning as well. So
yeah, I think that's the secret. For me, it was one of the biggest things that helped me through, the end of my military career. It was 2000. I had a really bad accident. I lost my forearm, and in a parachuting accident, and I was on several operations as well. And that, you know, it takes its toll mentally on you. I had pretty severe PTSD. I still suffer from it now, but you know, it's manageable. And one of the best ways I found to manage it, it was a bit by mistake, but was it? I'm not sure, because I felt this pull to the outdoors. That's what I loved about the military side of my career. Yeah, even the worst places like the Sahara Desert I spent 11 months there chewing sand, but that was even beautiful. It's just incredible, some of the vastness and the beautiful things that you can experience in nature. Out back Australia and just looking up at the stars and everything's quiet and you just hear a few creatures in the night. It's pretty amazing. But just being in your own veggie garden, for me it just put me in the zone, as they say, like in sport. And every time I go out, and I do this 2 or 3 times a day, even if I haven't got anything to do, which usually is something, but I can just walk around my garden looking and strolling around, and I just get absorbed and in a trance, and I really zone out, and it helps me cope with any anxiety or stresses. And that's a bit like the men's, well, probably a lot like the men's shed. It's that getting in the zone, it's working with wood, and it's talking to the guys, and you're in your happy place. And this is what we need to do. We all have to deal with stress as part of our work or life, or things go wrong, but you can't sustain that. You can't sit in that stress zone. Otherwise, it's like a budgie. It'll have a heart attack. You've got to give yourself that space and that time, whatever hobby it is, gardening or wood turning or whatever, fishing, you've got to get your hands dirty, get out there in nature, and suck that in and give yourself a break. And then you can deal with the stresses of life much easier and better. Yep.
And that's, you hit the nail on the head. That's what a lot of the sheds are all about. There's all those different sort of things. And so many of them are doing, it's not just the woodwork and the metalwork. Nearly every shed's pretty much got a garden in it nowadays. I spoke to a shed up in Noosa yesterday, I think it was, and they've got aquaponics going on.
Aquaponics and hydroponics, and now you can grow them in sheds because you can have grow lights.
Incredible. It's incredible. So all that knowledge is just getting passed on and shared, and it's fantastic, mate. I could talk to you forever, but we've got a couple of questions here. I think if we can address some of those. So let's see. Chemicals in the garden, for or against?
Well, definitely against. Look, there are organic chemicals that you can use that are fine. You even have to be a bit careful with the organic pesticides and that, and the chemical fertilizers. Wherever I try to always go natural and organic or organic based with fertilizers, and I don't very rarely spray even organic sprays in the garden. If you set your microclimate, your micro ecosystem up right, it might take a while. It could take a few years even to get the right balance, and then you'll find that birds and predator insects will come in and they will keep the bad bugs under control, and your garden will look after itself. Lots of people plant things at the wrong time in the garden, and that's
me.
If you do that, the insects will come in and they will clean it up. It's their job to spot plants that are under stress and clean them up. It's the way nature works. Look and see the earth through her eyes is my motto, my main motto. That's also the other motto is be self-sufficient in something. So looking and seeing the earth through her eyes is observing how nature does work, and it does a beautiful job at. We grow a ton of veggies literally in the backyard here, and I can't recall the last time I sprayed any chemical to kill aphids or any bugs. I've gone through this last week and plucked off the 26 and 28 spotted lady beetle on my potatoes, and I've plucked off some grubs from cabbages. But I do all that by hand. I might shoot them off with a water gun occasionally for a bit of fun. But I don't spray things. It's not needed because you sit back and watch our garden. The birds come in, they'll look for the caterpillars, they'll look under every leaf, under the kale, and then they'll pluck them off. It's amazing. And so you've got predator wasps that'll come in and they'll eat the aphids and stuff. And you don't need to, if you just set your garden up right and grow at the right time, and timing's everything in food gardening. You don't need chemicals.
That's good to know, because I'm sort of feeling a little bit overwhelmed, thinking, oh, look, I don't know anything about what to spray when and what bugs or what, but you're saying, look, just relax and go with it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
and when it
if
comes to
happens,
like
it happens.
fruit trees,
Yeah,
for example, you've got a number of things that might attack fruit trees. Unless it's really major and that tree's a young shrub and it's dying, I wouldn't touch it. I've got plenty of oranges and lemon that look a bit shady. You know, there's a fair bit of leaf damage here and there, leaf minor, making them look a bit ugly. But does it affect them? No, it's not. It's not affecting them. It's
right.
you know, people try to grow a food garden for ornamental reasons, and it can be ornamental and beautiful, but you shouldn't get worried too much about how a fruit tree looks, for example, if it's not getting affected by those bugs that are on it. So there's a few caterpillars aren't going to eat too much, and they'll just turn into butterflies, and so it's not going to hurt the performance of that plant at all. Then don't worry about it, unless you know that plant is just young and getting decimated. Of course, get in there and intervene, whether that be by hand, breaking aphids off with your hands, or picking grubs off with your fingers, or at worst case, maybe spraying some pyrethrum or something like that, which is, I wouldn't like to, because it can kill bees and good bugs as well. But if you pick your timing right, maybe in the afternoon, it's an organic type pesticide, or you can use neem or other things, or a homemade sort of remedy made of garlic and a little bit of olive oil and stuff like that.
I think you've got a video on that, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. I have some natural remedies as well. Yeah, on my videos. Just do a search.
I think there's nothing you haven't videoed. How many videos do you think you've done? You know?
I was over 500.
Wow. My God. Do you ever lacking content? You ever thinking, oh, what am I going to do today?
No, I've got too much. I can't cover them all. I've got so many videos that I want to do that I just can't possibly do them all.
Wow. Might have to get a team in. Get you down to the shed.
Yeah.
Let's see. So some tips for setting up a garden to grow food in suburbia. Any tips for growing in suburbia?
Oh, well, space isn't the problem, really. You can grow even on a small balcony, and I've done videos on that too. But I take it as a challenge. All you need really is sun. If you've got 6 to 8 hours at least of sunlight, no matter how small, you can grow lots of things. I just demonstrated a tomato plant in a container. You know, you can get a good 5 or 6 kilo of fruit off the thing. So you can go down lower, and if you're just wanting to flavor food like potatoes and rice and things and make a curry, you can grow a chili plant, a coriander plant, some ginger on a windowsill, and still be able to pluck off that food, enough sort of spices and stuff to flavor a good rice dish.
Right, there you go. Another one, I know, look, said, have you got bees? I know you've got chickens, you've got ducks, you've got quails, I think. Do you have bees as well? I know bees are very important to a garden. So.
We've got native bees, and they're primarily there to pollinate the garden, and they're in our old book. They're in the play gym, actually, which doesn't get used anymore. It's pretty overgrown, so I've stuck them in the play gym near the slippery slide, and they pollinate the garden. I don't have honeybees just yet. We do have plenty of honeybees that come in because there are beekeepers all around our area. But I've always wanted honeybees, but I'm just a bit hesitant at the moment because that's another project that you've got to be, you know, really get stuck into, because it's just not like sitting them there and then leaving them. You've got to manage the bees, and I don't want to do a half-assed job at it.
Yeah, I think you got enough on your plate anyway, don't you? You seem like a busy man. I can't imagine, like, I put so much time and effort in my little garden. I've seen what you've got going on there. It must be nearly full-time work.
Oh, it is full-time, but it's all fun. It's all good. You must,
What do you do with all the food? You must have so much food. Like, I know, you know, I get zucchinis and I give them away, or too many tomatoes and I give them away. What do you do with all the food?
Yeah, give them away. I don't sell any of it. anything we don't eat goes back into the garden or goes to the animals, goes to the chickens.
Yeah,
Chickens
right.
eat really well. And
Yeah, I bet.
yeah.
Oh, we haven't even touched on your preserves and the things you do there. I mean, that's another whole massive thing you do. You know,
Preserving a glut. So when you get a whole lot of produce, because you can't grow certain things all year round, like you can't grow cucumbers all year round. So when you've got that window of 3 months here in the subtropics, you preserve them and pickle them, and then you can have them through the whole year until you can grow them again.
Yeah, right. Brilliant. Wow. Well, mate, I'm going to continue watching. Like I said, I'm a big fan. I just stumbled across your video, and it's just one of those things you just get a little bit addictive, and you've got such a great exuberant personality and things, and your knowledge is brilliant. And like I said, it's not just the knowledge, it's the sharing. It's the sharing of the mistakes and the trials and errors. And so I implore anyone that's listening today to go and check out Mark's channel. It's self-sufficient me. Boy, you just Google in anything gardening and he'll come up. I mean, how to grow a ton of lemons, how to grow a ton of anything. And what happens when I bury this dead dark, you know, but very, very hard to miss. So, mate, thank you so much. And I do hope we can have more to do with you in the shed world in the future, because you've got so much to share, all about, you know, you've got so many aspects of your life that you have things to share with the men's shed. So thanks again for being a part of this today. It's been absolutely brilliant.
For sure, mate. No, thank you very much for this opportunity, inviting me on the show. That's fantastic.
All right, mate. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
See you.
Okay, everybody. So next week we have Stu will be talking to the wildlife man, David Island. So we're staying on the nature theme here. So we hope you can tune in same time, same place, same bat time, same bat channel. So the registrations for that are on Facebook or on the mensshed.org. And don't forget the Shed Wireless podcast that comes out monthly now. We've got a couple more episodes this year coming up. So we look forward to seeing you on that, and we look forward to any feedback about these webinars and things, or any suggestions for guests would be great. All right, guys, thank you so much. And Stuart, we'll see you next week. All right, take care. Bye.